U.S. is speaking directly with North Korea. Apparently, they're still trying to reach a diplomatic solution in the standoff. For more on what Secretary Tillerson said after meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, we want to go to CNN international correspondent Matt Rivers. He's live for us from Beijing. Matt, what are you learning about this meeting?
Well, the Secretary of State is actually on a plane back to the United States right now, but it was just a few hours ago that I was able to sit in on a meeting with a couple of other journalists and the Secretary of State and talk about North Korea and ask a couple of questions off camera. And one of the things that jumped out, the most interesting thing that jumped out, is that he was asked, is North Korea ready to talk about this? And he said, look, we have direct communications to Pyongyang about this nuclear testing issue. He said, we've asked them, would you like to talk? Now, he wouldn't say how North Korea responded, if at all, to that question, so we're not sure if North Korea is in fact ready to talk. But Christy, it's significant because it's really the first time that, at least publicly, the Trump administration is saying that they have direct lines of communication with Pyongyang for some sort of diplomatic solution to this ongoing crisis, specifically about the nuclear weapon system. We know that both sides have talked before. When Otto Warmbier was released from North Korea, both sides actually met directly in Oslo, Norway, but that wasn't about the missile program. That was about a hostage that the North Korean regime had. So this is an interesting step forward. It's perhaps a good sign, given the kind of rhetoric that we've seen from both sides over the last several months, that there might be some push forward now for a diplomatic solution. That's exactly what the Secretary of State said is the preferred outcome here, not war, but diplomatic talks.
Okay, so Matt, did he give any indication as to strategically what this means or how it would process out?
No, he didn't give any specific inclination as to what's going to happen moving forward. You know, in the beginning of our sit down with him, he actually said the first time I would have the opportunity to sit down with the North Koreans, it would be to say, well, what do you even want to talk about when it comes to what's on the negotiating table? And he specifically said, we haven't even gotten that far yet. So clearly, yes, this is a step forward in the sense that there is diplomatic communications happening, but it is clearly, Christy, in the very beginning stages of any sort of conversation, negotiation that would happen between both sides to try and reduce the tension of this particular conflict.
Yeah, but it is interesting to hear a Secretary of State say we are talking directly to Pyongyang. You're right. Matt Rivers, thank you so much, sir.
Still ahead, the president turns on Puerto Rico, saying, quote, they want everything done for them, unquote, in the wake of two devastating hurricanes. The reaction is pouring in.
And there's a restaurant owner who grew up in Puerto Rico, and he is doing so much, everything that he can to help. He shares with us his emotional message for President Trump. Stay close.
You need to do this yesterday. You need to get your hands in there, get involved, get dirty. Go look around. See how the people are dying right before your eyes.
And then many more did exactly that. Then came Thursday night. The Bears and the Packers joined arms instead. Last night, the NBA sent a memo to all 30 basketball teams reminding players of its rule to stand for the anthem. And so what comes next? Joining me again, America's premier sportscaster, Bob Costas of NBC Sports. You know, you pointed out in a conversation we had here previously that the NBA has this rule, and yet you also told me they're the more progressive of the different leagues.
Yeah, generally speaking, the NFL and its owners are the most conservative of the four leagues, and the NBA would be, this is a generalization, the most progressive. But they had a rule that says you must stand respectfully. They allowed Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf some 20 years ago to stand in a prayerful position like this. You could also stay in the locker room, but they eliminated that controversy.
Are you surprised by the reinforcement, the memo that went out last night?
No, because the atmosphere calls for a reminder. You know, here's a thought. First offered by Hines Ward in Anderson Cooper's town hall the other night here on CNN. Every league now has its own network, MLB network, NBA network, NFL network. They could make, and I think it would be a wise move, they go 24/7, 365.
Right.
Lots of highlights,
Right.
lots of shows, but they could make a weekly show, each network could, an hour long, have a responsible moderator, and bring thoughtful people on to express whatever viewpoint concerns them. Because eventually it only stands to reason that there are going to be people with differing viewpoints,
Sure.
conservative viewpoints, somebody who's upset about this or that policy. They too deserve a voice. Allow players a platform, not just to protest, but to articulate the reasons for their protest. On Anderson's show, Doug Baldwin of the Seattle Seahawks struck me as so thoughtful and so well informed and so nuanced. And that's the next step beyond Colin Kaepernick. As we've talked before, Colin Kaepernick's intentions were good. But when you say, I do not vote because the oppressor will never allow you to vote your way out of your oppression, I guess it doesn't matter to him that people, mostly black but some white, died for his predecessor's rights to vote, or were beaten or mistreated in their efforts. Maybe it doesn't matter to him that when he first took a knee, Barack Obama was president, and now Donald Trump is president. He later shows up at practice wearing socks that depict cops as pigs. He praises Fidel Castro when in Miami. Maybe that's why he's not the quarterback of the Dolphins now, and Jay Cutler is, although there may be other reasons. So you need to move beyond Colin Kaepernick, whose intentions were good and who has donated and raised millions of dollars, so his heart is in the right place, but who sounds very politically naive, and two people like Doug Baldwin, and you need to give them a voice.
The president, when running as a candidate, Donald Trump said, we're going to get tired of winning. Did he just win Thursday night insofar as they didn't protest during the anthem at that game, they linked arms? And now here comes the NBA saying, we don't want our guys taking a knee during the anthem.
President Trump seems able to spin almost any circumstance
But is he right
as a
in
win
this case?
for him. I don't think so. I think this is evolving. Players and people around all the leagues are evolving in their understanding. This is a humble suggestion on my part, because who am I, a very fortunate white man, to tell primarily African-American citizens what they should do? But this is my suggestion. The idea of linking protests, no matter how legitimate the issue you are protesting, directly to the national anthem is not just offensive to the love it or leave it crowd. It actually causes ambivalent feelings at best among many people who are sympathetic to the issue, but see the anthem as representing a lot of different things, including the country's ideals and aspirations. So to me, perhaps the most effective thing to do would be to stand for the national anthem, but the second the last note is struck, take a knee. Because now we're in a time, I don't know how long it'll last, where the networks are going to cover the national anthem. They're going to show it. Most of the time, unless it's the Super Bowl or the World Series and you want to see the singer, they're in commercial during the anthem. Now you're going to see it. So you'll have the same audience, you'll have the same set of eyeballs. It would be a powerful statement if these players, most of whom have emphasized when they've been interviewed that they love their country, they respect the military, it isn't anything against America, it's about this issue. Okay, stand for the anthem, then take a knee. Then what is Mr. Love It or Leave It going to say? To me, humble suggestion, that's the best thing to do.
Were the coaches and owners who linked arms with their players last weekend being hypocritical? Because as I looked at them without your trained eye, I said, wait, they're the same individuals. Say what you will about Kaepernick politically, but he deserves a shot. Aren't they the same people not giving him that opportunity?
Yeah, some of them have legitimate reasons not to give him the opportunity. They're set with their backup or whatever. Or they might say, look, it's almost the same thing as if Tim Tebow were able to be a backup quarterback at this stage in the NFL. Is it worth it? Because the focus is so much on Tim Tebow, and we know that football people don't like distractions, so that could be the excuse. But is that a valid excuse 32 out of 32 times? And we'll see what happens as the season goes along and people get injured and backups step up and some of them will fail and Kaepernick is in shape and ready to go. Yes, I think it would be great if he found himself on some team, and he has already said that he plans to stand for the anthem if he is able to make an NFL team. Look, these owners almost had no choice. When Trump or anybody else may have said something that offended the sensibilities of some Americans, those owners didn't say anything, and I'm not saying they should have. But when their own players were directly attacked, when they were called SOBs, they had no choice but to stand with their players. Not just because they are their bread and butter to a certain extent, but because they know them, and they know that most of them are decent people.
Quick final comment. Kneeling versus sitting. I think I've got an image of Marshawn Lynch that I want to put up on a Gatorade cooler. React to that, what you're seeing.
this is, again, just me. What Marshawn Lynch, who is an unusual character, is doing there seems to me to be completely counterproductive. It's contemptuous. It has no redeeming aspect to it. It has a screw you aspect to it. Those who took a knee, sometimes taking a knee in various contexts, is actually an act of grace. Whether one agrees that it should be directly connected to the national anthem or not, taking a knee is entirely different than sitting like that, almost smirking at the NFL and at the national anthem, sitting on the Gatorade bucket.
Here's some of the social media reaction to my discussion with Bob Costa. Smirkanish, the players have a right to kneel. Also, as a veteran, I have the right to take it as a sign of disrespect.
Correct.
All true.
Correct.
Right? Another one, quickly, if we can. I believe the kneeling going on now is more a protest of Trump than it, you know, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's no longer about racial injustice or the shooting of unarmed African-American men the way Kaepernick envisioned it. It's become a referendum on the president.
Yeah, he changed that narrative, but understand, he called these players, blanket statement,
right,
almost all of whom were African-American,
right,
sons of bitches. He also comes off entering politics with a completely ridiculous, already disproven, easily interpreted as racist dog whistle thing about the president's American citizenship. You contrast the fervor with which he criticizes Meryl Streep with how long it took him to sort out the Charlottesville situation. He thinks Frederick Douglass, or at one time thought Frederick Douglass, was still alive. Okay? So this is not disconnected from race. You know,
right.
you want to give the President of the United States the benefit of the doubt, but there's a whole lot of doubt to give the benefit of.
You said, please don't introduce me like that, but I'm going to embarrass you before you leave me. 12 Olympics, 7 Super Bowls, 7 World Series, 10 NBA Finals, and 28 Emmys. Awesome, and deservedly so.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. One more tweet while Mr. Costas is in the house. Smirkanish, I always and still believe Bob Costas should moderate presidential debates. Hey, that is a hell of a suggestion. Have you ever been asked?
No.
Would you,
I do not expect
if asked, would you serve?
No.
Why?
No, despite what some people who don't want to make valid distinctions think, I talk about certain political issues when they have obviously intersected with sports. And I think in that respect, I stay in my lane.
Thank you, Bob. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome, Michael.
it. We're
Good to see you.
privileged to have you here. Hey, still to come, the Supreme Court's going to hear a crucial case this week about whether it's legal to redraw voting maps along party lines. But in a moment, why the